We now move to question time, and Senator Little.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Yesterday, when speaking on a matter of urgency motion by Senator Nampijinpa Price calling for a Royal Commission into sexual abuse in Indigenous communities and an audit of Indigenous-specific programs, Senator Ayres said, "What is the content of this motion and the letter really about? It's really about an angry pursuit of the people who those opposite don't like and who didn't agree with them in the recent referendum." Minister, do you agree with Senator Ayres that a motion regarding child sexual abuse was about the failed Voice referendum rather than being about vulnerable children?
Thank you, Senator Little. Minister Wong.
Well, I'll take the interjection about shame, because I think the shame is in trying to use an issue as serious as child abuse for political purposes, as that question does. There is no one in this chamber. There was no one in this chamber.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Scarr.
President, impugning the motive of my good friend Senator Little. Point of order. Motive of Senator Little accusing her.
It's not a point of order, Senator. There was no impugning. Please resume your seat. Minister Wong, please continue. I ask senators to listen in respectful silence.
Everyone in this chamber would condemn child abuse. Everyone in this chamber, regardless of political, that should be withdrawn.
Senator Little, first supplementary.
That's it.
Beg your pardon. Sorry.
Then I'll respond to the primary.
Order. Senator Ruston, I'm attempting to deal with a request to withdraw. Senator Wong, I'm sorry, there was so much noise. I'm not quite sure who you are asking me to ask to withdraw.
It's regrettable that people with senior positions in this place would think that they shouldn't withdraw on that. I will again repeat what I said. Everyone in this chamber condemns child abuse. Everyone in this chamber believes that every child has a right to grow up safe and healthy. Whatever our political views, whatever our views about whatever our views, I don't agree with the way in which it has been put to me, the implication that was put in the question. And I will again repeat, every decent person across this country would stand against and does stand against child abuse. Yes. And so to imply that there is anything other than that view across this chamber, I think is wrong. I think it is wrong and unfair. Wrong and unfair. What I am saying is that...
Minister Wong, have you finished your contribution?
Thank you, President. I think the point that, and obviously I was not in this chamber, there are somewhat pressing matters, as the chamber would be aware that anyone in this role would have to be engaging in. But I would say this. I understand the government's position to be that we don't need another Royal Commission to tell us that concrete action is needed, that we do all share a focus on the immediate issue of keeping women and children safe and ending violence against women and children. And you would be aware our last budget provided substantial funding.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Little, first supplementary.
Senator Ayres also said the motion was all about the politics and not about the solution. It's always about the politics, never about the solution, end quote. Minister, Senator Nampijinpa Price clearly wants to find a solution by holding a Royal Commission into this most serious issue. Do you agree with Senator Ayres that this is about politics and not a solution?
Thank you, Senator Little. Before I call the minister, I'm going to ask for respectful silence on both sides of the chamber. Minister Wong.
I don't think anybody watching this debate over these last months would believe that there hasn't been a lot of politics played. And I do think from questions yesterday and questions today, it's quite clear that there are those on the coalition side who do wish to make a political point out of the referendum. And Senator Cash couldn't help herself yesterday and the day before about the digs about the referendum.
Order.
Fair enough.
Order.
I understand that she's a politician and she's going to behave as such.
Senator Cash.
But what I would say is this: the Prime Minister has made clear that the next steps after this have to be discussed, not just with one, not just with two members of parliament, not just with three, not just with a party room, not just with this chamber, but with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities across this country.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Little, second supplementary.
Senator Ayres also said, what we as a government will do is listen. We will listen carefully to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. Minister, why won't you listen to Senator Nampijinpa Price, an elected Indigenous woman from an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, and back her call for a Royal Commission into child sexual abuse in Indigenous communities?
Thank you, Senator Little. Minister Wong.
As that supplementary was being prepared, Senator Cash said it gets worse, and then the questioner came to me about what Senator Ayres said, which is listening.
Yeah.
That says something, doesn't it? What a terrible idea.
What a shocking
well,
idea.
Yes, we will. Well, Senator
Cash. Senator Cash, there is ample opportunity during the sitting week to make whatever comments you want by signing up to an adjournment or some other opportunity. Now is not that time. I'm asking you to listen in respectful silence. Minister, please continue.
One person on any side of politics does not speak for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities of this country, whatever side, whether it's Senator McCarthy or Senator Nampijinpa Price. We need to deal with communities respectfully. I would invite those opposite to look at the results.
Senator
Look at the results in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander polling booths, and to see that the reality is that most Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, well, many certainly voted yes. Now, and many people are hurting.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan.
My question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Penny Wong. Can the Minister update the Senate on the security situation in the Middle East following the abhorrent attacks on Israel by Hamas?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
My thanks to Senator Grogan for her question. I appreciate her ongoing concern over the crisis unfolding in the Middle East. We have seen a devastating loss of innocent life since the heinous attacks on Israel by a brutal terrorist group, Hamas. We continue to call for the unconditional release of all hostages. Colleagues, the scenes from the explosion at a Gaza City hospital overnight are deeply distressing. As the Prime Minister said this morning, every innocent life matters, whether Israeli or Palestinian. Our thoughts are with those killed, with those injured and their loved ones. The protection of civilians wherever they live must come first, and respect for international humanitarian law is paramount. We condemn any indiscriminate attacks and the targeting of civilian infrastructure, including hospitals. Australia joins with others in calling for international law to always be upheld. The humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, and we reiterate our call for safe and unimpeded humanitarian access to Gaza. We support the establishment of a corridor to enable humanitarian needs to be met and to ensure the $10 million in humanitarian assistance we have announced reaches those who need it. We are encouraging the work of the United States, of Egypt and others towards this goal. As I told this place earlier this week, our calls for international law to be respected, international humanitarian law to be respected, are about protecting innocent life, but they are also about our shared interests. They are about containing this conflict, and containing this conflict matters. If conflict were to spill over across the region, risks to Israel's security would be compounded, as they would for Israeli and Palestinian civilians and civilian populations throughout the region. Averting regional escalation matters to Israel, it matters to the people of the region, and it matters to the world.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, for all that you're doing for those innocent civilians in Palestine and in Israel. with this challenging security situation, can the Minister update the Senate on the Australian Government's effort to assist Australians who are seeking to leave?
Minister.
Thank you, President. Last night, an Australian government-assisted departure flight landed in Sydney from Dubai carrying 222 passengers. 164 of those were Australian citizens. It was wonderful to see Australians reunited with their families at the airport. An Australian government-assisted departure flight is due to land in Sydney from London today, and subject to security conditions, we are planning an assisted departure flight from Tel Aviv to Dubai today. We continue to assist Australians who want to leave the occupied Palestinian territories. This includes supporting Australians in the West Bank on departure options such as transport to Jordan with our international partners and accommodation. Australians in the West Bank who want to leave should contact the Consular Emergency Centre. More than 1,500 previously registered Australians have now left Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
Given the regional situation, can the Minister update the Chamber on the Australian Government travel advice for Lebanon?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Since the beginning of this crisis, the government has updated the Australian Government's travel advice for neighbouring Lebanon. I said on the weekend we are urging Australians in Lebanon to consider whether the need for them to remain there is essential. I urge that again today. If Australians in Lebanon do wish to leave, they should be aware that a crisis could limit commercial departure options. If they want to leave, we encourage them to take the first available option. The areas of Lebanon bordering Israel, Golan Heights and Syria remain level 4, do not travel. Other areas of Lebanon remain at level 3. Reconsider your need to travel. This means Australians should avoid non-essential travel. Please access the latest travel advice on Smart Traveller website, and Australians who need emergency consular assistance should contact the Consular Emergency Centre.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Has the Prime Minister spoken with the Prime Minister of Israel since the horrific attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October? If not, has the Prime Minister sought or scheduled a call with Mr Netanyahu, and has one been scheduled?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. Minister Wong.
I will seek further advice, but my recollection is a call was requested after the attack. My recollection is, and when I last spoke to the Prime Minister's office about this, the call had not yet been scheduled, and obviously there has been a lot of engagement with both with the Israeli government, in particular via the ambassador. I would make this point, and I would encourage all in this place to heed the words of Mr Burgess about the importance of sensitively handling issues, particularly at this time, particularly given the events overnight. We know, as I said when this motion was being debated, this is an issue about which some in Australia's community feel very deeply. We know that there are strongly held different views in our community. We know it is important that all Australians, regardless of their views on this issue, do feel that they are not being excluded, that they have their perspective and their experience is something that those in leadership positions, those in this parliament, are aware of. So I would continue to urge there to be a mature, measured and bipartisan approach to these issues, given the sensitivity of these matters within the Australian community.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Birmingham, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. In February, the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet confirmed the only communication with Prime Minister Albanese and the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr Netanyahu, was a phone call on the 4th of August 2022 and a letter on the 5th of January this year. Since then, has the Prime Minister Albanese, had any further contact with Israel's Prime Minister, And if so, what has been the nature of those points of contact?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham.
I can advise in relation to the primary question. I can confirm a call was sought on Sunday formally, which was obviously very soon after the attack. We are yet to receive a confirmed time for a call from the Israeli government, which is perfectly understandable given the circumstances Israel is facing. I would say to you, Senator, that obviously the Prime Minister has, as have I, have engaged with members of the Jewish community and members and the Ambassador of Israel, and I know the Prime Minister has engaged with the Ambassador personally. I would also indicate that, as I have earlier in the week, that consistent with our view that escalation or spillover of this conflict is neither in Israel's interest nor in civilians' interests across this region, that we have reached out to governments of the region to express that view.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Birmingham, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Leaders from the United States, the European Union and Germany have or are visiting Israel to demonstrate their country's strong support for the Israeli people, to send a strong message regarding the savage attacks perpetrated by Hamas, and to seek to ensure the conflict does not further widen. Leaders of the UK and France are also expected to visit in coming days, and even President Zelensky of Ukraine is seeking to visit. Will Prime Minister Albanese follow the lead of Australia's allies and visit Israel?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. Minister Wong.
I would make the point, as in terms of that list, that obviously the P5 and members of the P5, relevant members of the P5 and others who have more direct engagement with the region, we would want to support very much their engagement and their work for the reasons I outlined. Our focus here is on what is it we can do from afar. Well, we've had a number of focuses. Obviously, bringing those Australians who needed assistance to come home, and we have done that. And I do thank all those who were involved in doing so. And I thank Senator O'Neill, who was there when people arrived, because I wasn't able to attend. So thank you for that work. In relation to the second focus has been to try and do what we can to prevent
Thank you, Minister. The time for
this
answering
conflict
has expired. Senator Waters.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister Wong. With even hospitals in Gaza being bombed, leaving hundreds of dead, will the government now call for the invasion of Gaza to end?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Wong.
We have said very clearly that, first in relation to Gaza, we have seen devastating loss of innocent lives since the attack on Israel by Hamas. I would again say the scenes from the explosion at Gaza City Hospital are deeply distressing, and it is clear there has been a devastating loss of life. We should all continue to assert that every innocent life matters, whether Israeli or Palestinian, and we should extend, obviously, our deepest sympathies to all killed, those injured and their loved ones. There are obviously conflicting reports about what has occurred. What I would say, Senator, and you would be aware from my comments from day one, and in my speech to this chamber in relation to the motion which was passed, we recognise Israel's right to defend itself. What I've also said is how Israel conducts this conflict matters. I have also consistently, as has the United States and overnight, or yesterday, the United Kingdom, called for the observance of international law. We have consistently said civilian lives should be protected. This is a very distressing and difficult situation, and it is important that Australia continues to assert the position that really we have always asserted as a matter of principle, which is that we urge the protection of civilian lives.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Almost half the people in Gaza are children. And Israel's siege and bombing of Gaza, halting all water, fuel and food to the people, is creating a humanitarian catastrophe. Does the government support Israel's illegal blockade and bombing of Gaza?
Thank you, Minister Wong.
I would refer to my previous answer. We believe that Israel has a right to defend itself. However, we have always called, from the beginning of this, I've called for the protection of human life and for restraint. I would ask the Greens to be aware of what I said in response to Senator Birmingham's question. I would ask all people in this place to look carefully at what the Director-General of ASIO said about words being inflamed. This is not an ordinary political debate. This is not an ordinary political debate. This is a debate where all of us, we have different views. We also have views where we come together. Well, let's not forget that. Well, we have to be very careful about how it is we talk about these issues and avoid inflammatory language. Every civilian life matters, whether Palestinian or Israeli.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. These actions are war crimes, and legal experts have said Israel's actions breach international law. Why is the government refusing to acknowledge what the world is witnessing? And will the government now agree that Israel's actions are in breach of international law?
Minister Wong. Thank you, Senator Waters.
Well, I refer to my previous answer, and I again say it was. I'm responding to the interjection with some disbelief that people are so unable to listen to what some of our officers are telling us and understanding what's happening in the community. Every life matters. Every innocent life matters. Every civilian life matters. And we urge Israel, in defending itself, to observe international law and to protect human life. That has been my position since my very first public response to these events.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bilyk.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health, Senator Gallagher. Can the Minister provide an update on how the Albanese government is delivering on its commitment to introduce Medicare urgent care clinics across Australia? How are these clinics helping Australians access affordable health care when they need it, and how are they helping to alleviate pressure on hospital emergency departments?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, President, and I thank Senator Bilyk for the question. It's an important question about Medicare and about new models of care with the Medicare urgent care clinics that we promised during the election, and we are delivering on that promise. The first of 30 of the 58 Medicare urgent care clinics across Australia have opened their doors and are helping Australians to get timely and affordable access to the health care they need. We have committed $493 million over 5 years to establish these Medicare urgent care clinics. This is a new approach to providing care for people who require medical treatment urgently but don't need an ambulance or a hospital stay. Then the Medicare urgent care clinic provides another option for people to seek the medical care that they need. These clinics are open extended hours 7 days a week. They're being established in existing general practices and community health centres to make the best use of existing facilities and leveraging the existing workforce. All of the services provided by the Medicare urgent care clinics are bulk billed, with highly trained doctors and nurses to provide care at the Medicare urgent care clinics with no need for an appointment. The urgent care clinics deliver service from time people walk in right through to fixing people up, so that then they leave without putting pressure on emergency department. This morning I joined with the ACT Chief Minister Andrew Barr to announce that from today Medicare urgent care clinics will be integrated across the very successful Canberra Health Services walk-in centres across its 5 locations at Gungahlin, Belconnen, Dixon, Western and Tuggeranong. Funding to integrate the walk-in centres with the urgent care clinic network will increase the number of nurses and allied health professionals to increase coverage at all centres. Open 7 days a week across extended hours, all services will be fully bulk billed. The clinics are jointly funded with the Commonwealth providing $7.1 million over 3 years to the ACT government for this purpose.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bilyk, first supplementary.
Thank you. Can the minister outline how the Albanese Labor government is working with states and territories to make sure local health needs are reflected in the planning and delivery of this new model of care? How are the Medicare urgent care clinics being integrated with existing health and hospital health services, including general practice and hospital emergency departments?
Thank you, Senator Bilyk. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Bilyk for the supplementary. It's really important that the Medicare urgent care clinics are integrated with the services provided by GPs and by hospital EDs. Through working closely with the states and territories, we're ensuring that services provided from the Medicare urgent care clinics are responsive to the needs of local communities. We're also working with GPs and PHNs to ensure the urgent care clinics are set up to deliver end-to-end care that they need. By working to ensure quality of services provided by the urgent care clinics, we will help ease pressure on hospital emergency departments, which we know that we have to do. In New South Wales, for example, it's estimated that almost half of emergency departments to New South Wales— President,
Senator
I
Ruston.
can't even hear myself think because of Senator Ruston.
Thank you.
I can't. I can't.
Order.
Thank you very much, Senator Scarr. Thank you.
Just resume your seat.
Can I do a point of order for myself, which is that Senator Ruston has not stopped. I started speaking and she started speaking, and I would ask you to draw her to order.
Thank you, Senator Gallagher. Thank you, Senator Gallagher. I'll wait for silence in the chamber. I have asked you repeatedly, Senator Ruston, to listen in respectful silence. I was about to ask Senator Ruston again to listen in respectful silence. Your constant interjections are disorderly, and I ask you to stop. Minister, please continue.
Thank you. And we know that they've got a sore point on Medicare because we know what they did to Medicare. They cut Medicare, and they can't stand the fact that there's a government in town that's investing in Medicare and actually delivering the health services that people need, something that Senator Ruston failed to do when
the time has expired for the answers. Senator Bilyk, second supplementary.
How do the Medicare urgent care clinics complement other actions that the Albanese government is taking to strengthen Medicare and improve Australia's primary health care system for the benefit of communities? Why are these actions vital to ensuring Australians continue to have access to affordable, high-quality health services?
Thank you, Senator Bilyk. Minister Gallagher.
Would you like to start, Senator Ruston? Your time starts now. Tell us about the cuts you made to Medicare. Tell us about the GP tax that Peter Dutton brought in. Tell us about the failure to index the Medicare bulk billing rates, the MBS items. Tell us about that. I'll give you extension of time to do that, to actually front up and be honest about what you did to Medicare and the fact that we are now investing billions of dollars into the workforce, into the support for services, into new ways of doing things through the Medicare urgent care clinics right across this country that you have never supported, that you have always criticised. And what are we seeing now? Thousands and thousands of people out of hours on weekends with their kids when they get sick, being able to access fully bulk billed services out of hours, something that you never dealt with and we have dealt with in the first 18 months. We have 30 centres across the country providing this service to the Australian community at no charge to make sure they could access the health services they need when they need it.
Order across the chamber. Senator Hanson.
My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. On Saturday night, when the Prime Minister spoke on the result of the referendum, he said, "This is not a yes or no vote. We are all Australians." If we're all Australians, Minister, why does your government have race-based policies when it should be based on individual needs, not Indigenous and non-Indigenous policies?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Wong.
Well, we are all Australian, and the Prime Minister, his speech and how he sought to engage post the referendum emphasised the importance of coming together at this time, when obviously there were different views in our community, and there is a lot of hurt in the Australian community and within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, and we need to be respectful about that. I think your question essentially goes to why are there Aboriginal-specific programs? Well, there are. When we're in government, when they're in government, we don't always agree with each other about how they are to be approached, and they are to reflect the commitment to closing the gap, which is based in factually based assessments of disadvantage. One of the stats which always chills me every time it is raised or referenced is that you're almost twice as likely to die before you're 1 year old if you're born an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander child. Like that, no one thinks that's acceptable. So we want programs, we want policies which change that. Everybody would want that. We all want the best for our children. Everyone would want that. Now, how we do that, there may be differences of views about that, and you've heard some today with Senator Little's question. What the Prime Minister has said is we will listen to community, we will work with community, we will engage with community, because we understand that if we work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, then the outcomes for those communities will be better than if we simply decide what we are doing.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Hanson, first supplementary.
Thank you. Labor's premise for the voice to Parliament was to have Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people advise on Indigenous policy and to address their issues. Yesterday, you had an Indigenous member of the Senate tell you of the traumatic sexual abuse occurring in Indigenous communities. Why did your government vote down a motion for a Royal Commission into child sexual abuse in Indigenous communities?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Well, I think that's a very similar question on the subject matter as Senator Little wrote, and I make the point that which I did in relation to that question, that we don't need another Royal Commission to tell us that concrete action is needed, and if all of us support and want to focus on the immediate issue of keeping women and children safe. But I again go back to the point you made about why we don't do what Senator Nampijinpa-Price demands. Well, because the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community is broader than a single member of this parliament, and that is what Senator McCarthy would say. That is what Senator Stewart would say. That what we want to do. I think it is a recognition. It is a recognition that we want to engage broadly with the community on the way forward.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Hanson, second supplementary.
The Voice to Parliament referendum has exposed the Aboriginal industry gravy train to the Australian people, who are now demanding answers about its failure to close the gaps despite receiving approximately $40 billion a year in funding. Minister, if your government is committed to closing the gaps and considering the Prime Minister's promised more accountability, why did Labor vote down a motion for an audit of this industry when evidence has been presented for years that indicates corruption and misappropriation of funds is occurring?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. The time has expired. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator. Well, I don't agree with the question and the assertions in the question or some of the phrases used, and I don't have the brief that tells me about this, but my recollection it was that there was an audit office report that the government is responding to and the relevant government agency has accepted, I think from what Senator Gallagher said yesterday, all 7 recommendations from memory, or might be more, which obviously did uncover, and you're right, it did uncover some problems in the program. I would make the point in the management of those programs. I would make the point that was under the previous government, and the government is focused on working through what was demonstrated during that audit and ensuring that the recommendations of that audit are implemented. I think all of us want to make sure there is the money, funding gets where it is needed and starts to shift the dial, because none of us want to live in the country with this much difference between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal.
Senator Chandler.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, Senator Watt. The Senate Select Committee inquiry into bilateral air service agreements heard the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts provided a brief to the Minister for Transport on the 9th of January seeking approval for a negotiating mandate for additional Qatar Airways flights. Later in January, the Virgin CEO met with the minister, who said that she expected to approve negotiations within the next couple of weeks, but was also speaking to then Qantas CEO Alan Joyce, who was, quote, not happy, unquote. Then there was 6 months with no feedback to the department until the minister decided to ignore departmental advice and reject the Qatar application in July. Minister, what role did pressure from Mr Alan Joyce play in the ministerial rejection of her department's advice?
Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Chandler. The minister has repeatedly made clear throughout this entire debate that her actions were only ever based on one factor, and that was the national interest of Australia. I know that throughout this debate, the opposition has repeatedly asserted that Mr Alan Joyce, as opposed to Mr Barnaby Joyce, another Joyce with an interest in aviation, that Mr Alan Joyce has exerted some sort of influence over this decision. But I also note that the opposition has never been able to provide one skerrick of evidence to back up that assertion. I mean, I saw through the referendum campaign that at one point Mr Dutton was claiming that Mr Joyce had influenced the Prime Minister's decision about the Voice. Again, no evidence, just going around making assertions. So I would invite the opposition to provide just one skerrick of evidence to back up the assertions that it has been making now for weeks. And I think it's quite telling that in a debate that has been going on for probably the best part of 3 months, they haven't been able to provide any evidence to back up that assertion.
Senator Birmingham.
Respond to the minister's invitation. Did Minister King speak with Mr Joyce in late?
Senator Birmingham, that is not. Senator Birmingham, that is order. Order. That is not a point of order. Thank you. Minister Watt, please continue.
It's nice to hear from the Leader of the Opposition in the Senate for a change. We don't really hear a lot from him these days. So, as I say, the opposition has never been able to provide a skerrick of evidence to back up the assertion that it makes. It's engaged in a campaign of smear against Minister King for the best part of 3 months without any evidence to back up their claims. I stand behind what Minister King has said, which is that the government's actions were based at all times on our decision as to the national interest, just as previous decisions made by former coalition transport ministers such as Michael McCormack to stop Qatar from having extra flights. I don't remember the opposition having any concerns about that. It only is when it's a Labor decision.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator Chandler, first supplement.
Thanks very much, President. The Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government has refused to outline who she spoke to prior to making her decision on the application for additional Qatar Airways flights and refused to confirm her conversations with Mr Joyce. Can the minister confirm that the only stakeholder Minister King spoke with before changing her mind and rejecting department advice was Mr Alan Joyce?
Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. Well, again, Senator Chandler, you can't just sort of make up evidence by coming and making assertions. The implications, you have no basis.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. I'll come to you, Senator Birmingham, but I am asking senators, particularly on my left, to stop the very loud interjections. Minister Birmingham.
President, the minister just
Is this
accused,
a point of order?
It is a point of order. The minister just accused Senator Chandler of, quote, making up evidence. Senator Chandler's
Birmingham.
question is referring directly to evidence to a Senate committee.
Senator Birmingham, Senator Birmingham, that isn't a point. Senator Birmingham, Minister Wong, please. Senator Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Birmingham, please resume your seat. That is a debating point. It's not a point of order. Please resume your seat. Senator Birmingham, Senator Birmingham. Senator Birmingham, I will certainly take advice, but I don't think that fits the gambit of points of order. Senator Birmingham, as I said in the beginning, that is a debating point, which, of course, senators are free to explore during taking note. Minister Watt.
As I say, this entire campaign has been based on a complete lack of evidence behind it, and the minister has already said publicly that she speaks to the CEOs of major airlines regularly, and she knew exactly what their opinions were on the Qatar decision. She has said that she spoke to the Qantas CEO, just as she spoke to the Virgin CEO, and that she certainly knew their positions before those consultations. So I'm afraid that you don't get to make a case by simply asking questions that don't have a factual basis in this desperate search for evidence to back up the assertions that you've been making for the last 3 months.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Chandler, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. The Albanese government and Qantas have made seats to and from Australia hard to access and expensive. Will the Albanese government continue its protection racket of Qantas by seeking to block attempts in this Senate to hear from the Prime Minister's friend Alan Joyce and Transport Minister King on what role Mr Joyce played in denying Australian travellers additional competition for flights to Europe?
Thank you, Senator Chandler. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Chandler. Well, to the extent that this question relates to Minister King's decision to not attend the Senate inquiry, Senator Chandler, Senator McKenzie and every other member of this Senate well knows that House of Representative members or ministers are not required to attend Senate inquiries. Peter Dutton? Did Peter Dutton attend a Senate inquiry?
Minister,
who's the current leader of the opposition? Peter Dutton never did that.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Order. Order. Order across the chamber. Order across the chamber. Senator Green. Order. Firstly, Minister Watt, I would ask you to make your comments to me, and secondly, when referring to those in the other place, to use their correct title. Please
Thank
continue.
you, President. Well, President, I'm pleased that it's taken the best part of 18 months for the opposition to finally embrace the words Scott Morrison, words that up until now, Mr Morrison, words that up until now have not been uttered by a single member of the opposition, and now they're clinging to him as a life raft for this baseless set of accusations that they've been making for the last 3 months. So welcome back, Mr Morrison. You are now officially a member of the Liberal Party again. But as I say, the opposition well knows that the custom is that House of Reps members do not attend Senate inquiries, and nor will Minister King.
Has expired. Senator Lambie.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is for the Special Minister of State, Senator Farrell. The last election saw the biggest drop in votes for candidates from the major parties in our nation's history. More and more Australians are voting for independents like Senator Tyrrell and myself. Australians are voting for independents because they know our loyalties to the people who put us here. It is not to big corporate donors, it is not to unions. We work only for our people. Minister, you publicly stated in June this year, and I quote, "The Australian electoral system shouldn't be just open to people with lots of money," end quote. What is your government planning to do to make sure, as you have stated, and I quote, "ensure that combination of transparency so that ordinary people can run campaigns," end quote?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Lambie for her question. Well, the process that we've set in place, Senator Lambie, is the one that occurs after every election. The issue of electoral reform is referred to the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters. I've made submissions to that group. They've put down or released an interim report, and we are now in the process of obviously taking further submissions, which I welcome any submission from the Jackie Lambie network to that committee process. The objective, of course, is the objective that the Labor set out before the last election, which is to improve transparency and accountability in our electoral system. Nobody is suggesting at any point that this would make it more difficult for people like yourselves to get elected, but when you've seen in the last two elections, Senator Lambie, that one individual has spent over $200 million on the electoral system, I say this Parliament has to review the way in which our electoral laws work, so that it's not simply rich people with vast amounts of money who can get themselves elected. Now, you're not in that situation. With all due respect, Senator Lambie, you're not in that situation. You're not in that situation. And I will at some point, when
Thank you, Minister Farrell. The time for answering has expired. Senator Lambie, first supplementary.
Thank you. Media outlets are reporting that you have done a deal with Peter Dutton to give major parties even more public funding during tough times from funding from elections. A dirty deal that will entrench the major parties and make it harder for Australians to vote for ordinary people at federal elections. Will you confirm that you have already cut a deal with Peter Dutton to raise the amount of taxpayers' money that goes to political candidates?
Senator Lambie, your question has finished, and before I call the minister, I remind you to, when referring to those in the other place, to use their correct titles. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Lambie for her first supplementary question. No.
Senator Lambie, second supplementary.
In the state of Victoria, when Labor and Liberal did a deal on election funding, they gave themselves exemptions for their own slushy funds. Funds like Labor Holdings and the Cormac Foundation. It seems Labor is good at talking the talk but not walking the walk. Will the minister rule out exempting slush funds, or will you admit here today that your deal with the opposition leader is just a cynical attempt to stop ordinary people instead of career politicians from being elected to parliament?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thanks, Senator Lambie. You obviously wrote that second supplementary question before you listened to my answer in the first supplementary question, but I thought I made it very directly clear that I don't have any agreement with Mr Dutton about electoral reform. I've explained to you what the process is, and the process is the same process that goes on after every election. We review the processes of the previous election. We work out ways in which we can improve our electoral process.
Minister. Senator Lambie.
Just asked a question. I just wanted to know whether the minister will rule out exempting slush funds. That was the question. Are you ruling out exempting slush funds?
Thank you, Senator Lambie, and the minister is being relevant to your question. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. Well, I was directly answering the question you asked me, Senator Lambie, and I was pointing out. Thank you,
Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Polley.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Social Services, Senator Farrell. Following the Jobs and Skills Summit last year, the Albanese government announced several measures in the social services portfolio to reduce barriers to employment and support inclusion. This includes a temporary work bonus measure. Can the minister please outline any action the government has taken to build on this temporary measure?
Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Polley, because I know you have a great interest in this area, and it must be my day for questions from Tasmanians. But thank you. Yes. No, that was yesterday. At last year's Jobs and Skills Summit, promoting social inclusion and reducing barriers to work were a key feature of the government's agenda. This was demonstrated through our government's decision to temporarily boost the pension work bonus, allowing more aged pensioners and veterans to earn and work more before their pension is reduced. The employment— I know you don't like these provisions, Senator Smith, but I know you don't like them, but we're doing it. The Employment White Paper, handed down in September, developed following the Jobs and Skills Summit, laid out a roadmap for permanent steps for the government could take to continue this important work. Today, my very good friend, the Minister for Social Services, who's doing a terrific job, introduced legislation to the House that will, from the 1st of January 2024, provide all new entrants over age pension age and eligible veterans with a $4,000 work bonus income bank starting balance, and permanently retain the maximum income bank balance cap of $11,800 for all pensioners. These changes will mean that eligible pensioners can choose to take up more work if they choose to do so without their pensions being impacted. The government's initiative has been welcomed by stakeholders who represent older Australians, including the Council for Ageing CEO Patricia Sparrow, who has called these changes a great step forward.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Polley, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. As well as supporting older Australians, can the minister outline additional ways the Albanese government is incentivising other Australians on income support to take up work?
Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Polley for her first supplementary question. We are delivering on our government's commitment to double the income nil rate period to 24 weeks and extend access to those entering full-time work. This means that Australians on income support who re-enter the workforce will be able to stay in the system longer, keep other benefits like the concession card, the childcare subsidies and the supplementary payments. These changes will reduce the need to reapply for income support if a new job doesn't work out, particularly short-term and casual work. These changes will support more Australians to take up employment opportunities if they wish to do so, but only if they wish to do so. In line with our government's—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Polley, second supplementary.
How will these measures support income support recipients transition to work, sit alongside other government changes?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Polley for her second supplementary question. The measures introduced today will complement the other vital work our government is doing to support Australians on income support. This includes additional cost of living relief going to income support recipients who are doing it tough, including increases to Commonwealth rent assistance and the expansion of eligibility for parenting payments for singles. Since the 20th of September, these measures have put more money into the pockets of Australians doing it the toughest. This is on top of vital cost of living relief through the energy bill relief, cheaper medicines and, of course, the tripling of the Medicare bulk billing incentive. Labor is committed to standing up for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Kovacic.
My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. In minutes released yesterday from the Reserve Bank's October 3 meeting, the RBA warned that some further tightening of policy may be required should inflation prove more persistent than expected. With the possibility of a further rate rise on top of the rates already at their highest since April 2012, will the Albanese Labor government take full responsibility should there be another increase in interest rates?
Thank you, Senator Kovacic. Minister Wong.
Well, thank you, President, and thank you to Senator Kovacic. Was that? Am I? Yeah. Okay. I was just. We were having a discussion about across the table about to make sure I got it right. So, thanks, Senator Birmingham. I would make the point that obviously we are deeply concerned about inflation, and you would have heard the Treasurer, the Prime Minister, the Treasurer, the Finance Minister and others being very clear about why the inflation challenge is the primary focus of our government, and why we are seeking to roll out cost of living relief in a way that doesn't add to inflation. Inflation certainly is more persistent around the world than we would like, and we recognise that inflation is moderating in our economy, but obviously we are not immune to global trends. I would make the point, the obvious political point, in response to the obvious political question, that the decisions of the Reserve Bank are decisions of the Reserve Bank. It is independent and it makes its own decisions. What we can do on this in government is to continue to invest in the future to address inflation and to seek to make progress on those things where we are able to. There is some welcome progress, not as much as we all would want, but there is welcome progress. We know that quarterly inflation peaked in the March quarter last year before the election. We also have the first surplus in 15 years because of our responsible economic management, and there was a $100 billion turnaround which resulted in the $22.1 billion surplus for the last financial year, as compared with forecasts inherited from the former government. It's the biggest nominal budget improvement in Australia.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Kovacic, first supplementary.
The RBA also noted that the rise in retail petrol prices would continue to underpin inflation over coming months and could influence households' inflation expectations. Can you outline specifically what your plan is for Australians who may soon be unable to pay their mortgage?
Thank you, Senator Kovacic. Minister.
I'd first make the point in relation to petrol, and this was, I think, a question yesterday, is that obviously it is petrol prices here in Australia are primarily driven by the global market and by the Australian exchange rate. And that was the case under your government, although obviously you came after the election, Senator, but that is the case under governments of both political persuasions. But that response obviously I want to make sure I'm very clear that we understand how difficult the higher petrol prices are for families, particularly those living for whom long commutes are a necessity. I would also say that we have asked the ACCC to regularly monitor and analyse fuel prices. Again, that analysis confirms that the international benchmark price and the value of the Australian dollar are the primary drivers of fuel.
Senator Kovacic, second supplementary.
Prior to the election, the Prime Minister promised Australians cheaper mortgages along with cheaper fuel and a $275 cut to power bills and real wages growth. Instead, under Labor, this cost of living crisis has gone from bad to worse. When will the Albanese government take full responsibility and deliver a real plan to reduce the cost of living, just as the Prime Minister promised that he would?
Thank you, Senator Kovacic. Minister.
Let me identify or outline for the chamber the aspects of the government's $23 billion cost of living relief for Australians. The first, electricity bill relief, opposed by you. Yep. Second, cheaper childcare, opposed by you. Increased rent assistance. Did they back that in or did they oppose that too? More Medicare bulk billing. Well, again. No. Cheaper medicines. Again, opposed by you. Boosting income support payments. Fee-free TAFE. Fee-free TAFE. building more affordable homes, expanding paid parental leave and getting wages moving again. All of those are the plan of this Labor government. It is a cost-of-living plan that doesn't add to inflation, and all, if not most of it, is opposed by you, and your only response, has always been, let's keep wages low. That's been fundamental to the Liberals' economic plan for years. The deliberate design feature of the Australian economy was low wages. We take a different approach, and we always will.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired.